48-year-old Christopher Ng achieved financial independence about a decade ago. The former IT professional started his dividend portfolio in his mid-20s. He retired at the age of 39 with a passive income then of about $5,000 a month. His portfolio of dividend stocks is made up of 42% equities, 41% real estate investment trusts or REITs, and 17% business trusts.
From my day-to-day portfolio of about 2.2 million, I'm generating approximately 6%, right? So that would generate for me maybe about 120 to 130,000 a year.
Dividends are payments that a company makes to share profits with its stockholders, typically on a quarterly basis. But not all stocks pay dividends. The top dividend stocks are shares of well-established, stable companies that regularly share their profits with shareholders and tend to increase their payouts over time.
For dividend investing, you are buying into mature companies. So these companies, they might not be very fast growing or do not have very high growth mechanics or features in that particular business itself. So we're not looking at technology companies, for example. We are looking at very stable businesses where they are in mature industries. So this means that they are able to pay you a sustainable dividend based on their profits.
When you own a dividend-paying stock, you can receive the dividends in cash or reinvest them. Reinvestment lets you accumulate more shares of the same company over time, leading to potential long-term returns. If you start at year 0 on $100 with a 6% dividend yield, you will have around $180 by the end of year 10, a return of 79%. This is assuming that dividend yield is the same throughout and there's no change in the share price.
The idea of this is that maybe in your early 30s, you start off with a dividend portfolio, you add to it over the years as you work. And then by the time you reach retirement age, the portfolio has grown large enough that your yearly dividend yield can actually cover a lot of your expenses. I think that is the goal, and it's something that we can strive towards.
With the power of compounding, dividend income could sustain your retirement.
If you aim for $100 every month of dividend payouts, you will need a portfolio size of approximately $24,000 to $25,000 to achieve that, right? And so what you do is that you do your best and you work harder, you do some overtime and you save this amount of money and have it generate that $100 for you. And if you do that a sufficient number of times, right, like 10 to 12 times, right, that's about $1,000 every month. And that would greatly be life-changing.
But investors like Christopher say it requires discipline as well as lifestyle choices. For Christopher, that means no branded goods, no fancy travel, and no car.
So the only thing I have is my portfolio, and I'm actually quite obsessed with it. And I would say that, yeah, I have paid a certain price to get the kind of portfolio.
For beginners, the Singapore stock market is an option known for its stability and dividend-yielding stocks. And there are other benefits as well.
We have a huge tax advantage when we invest locally in Singapore. There is no dividends taxation. And more importantly, the Singapore stock market has been beaten down over the years, and we've got a very low price-to-earnings ratio, about 10 to 11.
But despite the lower volatility in dividend investing, investors need to take into consideration the risks involved.
Although a lot of the dividends look very juicy, the dividends are not guaranteed, right? Technically speaking, when we look ahead, there has been many, or when we actually look at history, there's many cases, particularly during cases of where the market was in distress, or a company was in distress, where they can reduce or even remove the dividend. So this is not a guarantee for many investors.
Another risk is the value trap. Investors need to ask themselves why a company is paying high dividends.
A lot of times, people have that misconception is when I build a dividend portfolio, I only want to be looking at the yield. But when I only look at the yield, the risk comes where I do not understand the sources of income or the revenue source which is paying these dividends. I wouldn't know whether if it's sustainable or not. And a lot of times we might fall into the idea of a value trap, which means that many of these stocks might offer a very high dividend yield, but they might not be the best performer in terms of their businesses.
The first fundamental skill is that as a dividends investor, you got to know where your cash flow is coming from. If it comes from cash flow from operations like providing a product, providing a service, that's fine. But if you find that the company is, for example, borrowing money from a bank and giving it to you in the form of dividends, then it's a big no-no. And so for a good dividends investor, you need to understand that difference. And you need to work that out by looking at the financial statements.
Building a good dividend portfolio requires patience and persistence, and a certain degree of active management is required.
The thing about dividend investing is that it's not like sort of a get-rich-quick kind of strategy. Most people would have that misconception that say, okay, I want to go into income investing, I can get my returns the next day. You still need to actually put in some effort, patience, discipline to sort of grow and build that portfolio over time.
Dividends investing is the sedan chair. Okay? Now you build your sedan chair, it takes a while to build it, but you can imagine every person that carries your sedan chair as a stock, a business trust or REIT, right? And eventually if you have a sedan chair that is large enough, with a large enough number of people carry you through, you will go through life literally sitting on a sedan chair, being borne by the kind of dividend stocks that you built over your lifetime.